Truth has to come from one source. So Jesus likened truth to light. He called himself the light or the truth to a dark world. The right side up creator who came as truth and was not even recognized by his upside down creation. John 1:9-10 says, the true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not even recognize him. In other words, there seems to be somewhat of an unaware resistance to the ultimate truth that is trying to set all of us free. And I will say, in this point, I am operating under the assumption that there is such thing as ultimate truth. I'll say it this way, truth had to be here before we got here. Truth was true before you believed it. You believing in it doesn't give truth its power. And if you stopped believing it, it would still be true. It's like gravity. You can stop believing in gravity. Gravity doesn't care what you think. It's still just, it's gravity. It's true. Truth had to be here before any of us got here. There is one ultimate transcendent source of truth. So right here, I have a light, and here's the point I want to make. If there's light here, well, then that means it must have a power source that comes from somewhere. You might have to follow it, follow the breadcrumbs, follow the cable, but if you follow it, eventually you will find the power source. There is one true light that gives light to everything else. There has to be a source to power. There has to be a transcendent source of truth. Now, here's how I'll explain it. All of us would agree that there is right and there is wrong. There is such thing as good, there is such thing as evil. But my question for you is why? Why? Think with me, where does that come from? Where is that standard that all of us are referring to when we say right or wrong? Because everybody, all of us would all agree murder is evil. Every one of us, Christians, atheists, everybody agrees murder is evil. But my question for you is why? Why is murder evil? And you might just say, well, I mean, it's just an obvious fact. And what I would say is, okay, where does that obvious fact come from? And you might say, well, bro, it's just a moral. And I would say, okay, follow the cable. Follow the breadcrumbs. Where do morals come from? Oh, it's just a virtue. Okay, keep following it. Where do virtues come from? It has to come, like, what is it connected to? What is that virtue attached to? There is some kind of invisible moral standard out there somewhere, and everyone everywhere seems to know about it. And there was never a committee that once upon a time all got together and voted on this stuff and said, okay, all in favor of murder, is that we're calling that evil? Okay, all in favor, aye. And then abuse and assault and stealing, okay, and what about the good stuff? Are we gonna call giving to the poor and being kind and helping little ladies across the street and getting terrified kittens out of trees? This is all in favor of being good? Okay, says who, though? Because that committee never happened. So says who? Well, says everybody everywhere. But why? Why do all people from all cultures on every continent all agree on this stuff and nobody had to be taught? C.S. Lewis says human beings all over the earth have this curious idea that they ought to behave in a certain way, and nobody can really get rid of it. There is a source of truth that gives light to everything else. It has to come from somewhere. Right and wrong have to lead us back to something or someone whose ways and thoughts are higher than ours. And what I'm saying is logically, you have to say God is the ultimate source of truth. In other words, without God, if he wasn't real, there is no light and there is no darkness. There is no good, there is no evil, there is no right, there is no wrong without him. Oh, you could still murder or steal if God's not real. You just can't call it evil. You can't categorize it as evil if God's not real. Because without a source, you've got no moral code or standard to point to and say, oh, it's evil because of That's where it is on that spectrum. Or it's good because of the standard. There must be a truth source out there somewhere. You follow it, you will find it. There must be a beautiful design, a moral code out there beyond the sun that something or someone created and then somehow let all of us know about. And I just love how Romans 2:15 just knocks this out of the park. Watch this. They demonstrate that God's law is written in their hearts. He told us about it. Nobody had to be taught this. It's written in their hearts, for their own conscience and thoughts either accuse them or tell them they are doing right. Logic and reason would tell us there must be a transcendent source of truth. For if without a source, there is no light. In other words, you don't go finding your truth. You simply come home to his.